You're listening to the Entertainment Industries Council podcast series. This series is part of our ongoing mission to support accurate storytelling and reporting of major health and social issues. Following this podcast, we invite you to further explore the EIC website, eiconline.org, and learn more about the technical assistance we provide free of charge to journalists and the creative community.
And welcome, everyone. I'm Skylar Zwick, and our guest today is Ruchi Sanghvi, joining us from the Silicon Valley in California, where she began her career back in 2005 with a then little-known company called Facebook. Ruchi was the company's first female engineer, and during her tenure was not only watched the company skyrocket into a global network, but also built the network's most defining features of the newsfeed, platform, and Connect. Ruchi left Facebook in 2010 to start her own company, Cove, which has now been bought by the cloud-sharing service Dropbox. She now serves as Vice President of Operations. We're unquestionably honored to have you as our guest today, Ruchi. Welcome to the EIC podcast, and thanks for spending some time with us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. You are certainly quite a role model for young women and all young people looking to get invested in science, engineering, and technology. Tell us, what first inspired you to be interested in these fields?
Well, I grew up in India, and my father was an engineer, and he had a company that lent cranes for the construction of infrastructure projects like wells and ports and subway stations. So when I was very young, I wanted to take over my father's business, despite being told many times that it was a man's world. And I thought that the quickest way to get there would be by studying engineering. So when I reached high school or college, it came down to whether I would study mechanical engineering or electrical engineering and computer engineering so that I could take over my father's business. That truly was my inspiration back in the day.
And I bet your father is honored to hear that he had a part in what has become a really wonderful career for you. I mean, when you first started at Facebook, it certainly looked nothing like it does now. A great number of the page elements that many of us who use the service take for granted, you actually thought of and helped create and launch that. It put you in a really unique position to think creatively in a very technical job. Tell us, how has creativity been able to inform your work and your career?
So one of the most interesting things about technology and building technology is that you're actually building it for people. You're building it for the millions of people around you, your friends, your family, colleagues that you might know of. So when you think of building products and technology, creativity is a driving force. In our field, it oscillates from being creative and being able to explore widely to then focusing deeply on actually building the products. And creativity comes from brainstorming with people from different disciplines, people who've studied design, people who've studied art, people who've studied music, to then like camaraderie, and feeling as though you're contributing to a bigger mission that would actually impact millions of people's lives or make them efficient or save a couple of hours every day. And then focusing on actually building those things and bringing them back to life. So it comes from a lot of different places, and I do believe it's an extremely creative profession.
And I know originally you wanted to take over your father's business, but life had a little different idea for you. What went through your mind, and what was the conversation with your family when you learned you were going to have the esteemed knowledge of being the first female engineer for this up-and-coming social network like Facebook?
So I have to clarify that. My father did not offer me a job and would not let me work in his company, which led me to explore other options around. And for that, I'm extremely thankful and grateful. It did feel terrible in the beginning. It felt as though I wasn't up to par, or I wasn't going to make the cut, or I didn't have enough to contribute. But later in life, I felt it worked in my favor. The funny thing about being the first female engineer at Facebook is that I didn't know that until the day I left the company and someone told me that interesting tidbit.
I'm sure, though, that growing up, whether it was through your education or even your desire where you were going to work, you probably faced a lot of challenges. What are the challenges you face as a woman trying to make your way in this field?
So one of the first challenges is that you need to fight stereotypes. You need to fight the stereotype of what it is to be a woman in the field. And sometimes as women, you tend to overcompensate. So if I wanted to come across as strong, I actually end up coming across as tough. And those stereotypes hurt at an emotional level. So there was a really great case study that drives the point home that was studied in the Harvard Business School. And there was a woman named Heidi Roizen, and she was an operator in a company in Silicon Valley. She uses her contacts to become a successful venture capitalist. And then a professor then at Columbia University took the case study and made it Howard Roizen. And he gave the case study out both to two groups. And he changed just one word, the name Heidi to Howard. One group said that Howard was fantastic, he was inspirational, they'd love to work for him, they'd enjoy working with him. And the other group thought that Heidi was all about herself, she was out for herself, she was a little too political, and you wouldn't want to work for her. So there are these stereotypes, and women often fight to compensate for these stereotypes, but it becomes really difficult. So that was one of the biggest lessons I learned working in the environment. The environment is tough, especially engineering and technology. It's honest. You have to be able to give and receive direct feedback. You need to be able to support your point of view, and you need to learn how to push back and raise your hand and ask for opportunities. It's lonely. Sometimes you're the only woman in a room full of men. And when you have more women in the room, it's interesting to see how the dynamics change. But at the end of the day, there are a lot of positives. There are plenty of opportunities in technology. It is the closest thing to a meritocracy that you can find in a professional environment. Being a woman is a competitive advantage. There aren't that many. And when half the set of people or half the set of customers end up becoming women, you have this competitive advantage to be able to design the product for the women. So there are a lot of pros and then there are a lot of cons, but I think overall the environment is getting better.
And we will continue this interview with Ruchi Sanghvi, the first female engineer for Facebook. Tune in next time, and for more information, log on to eiconline.org.